Not really any relevant details. She just can't remember the details. And we have some big problems for Christine Ford's story. I went through the first three just before the break. I want to finish the other 5 big questions here. And then I have a big question for the Democrats. If they really want to protect victims of sexual assault, why don't they, instead of this political grandstanding, and we understand the politics of this and what this is really about, is all this stuff is happening at the very last minute. Instead of that, why don't they do something about the statute of limitations to really protect victims of sexual assault? And I say that because we have this story that comes out at the very last minute. A lot of people are reporting this and saying, hey, we got 2 men who say that they were the basis for the groping allegation. Well, it's not 2 men. If you look at the statement, you see in the notes of the Senate Judiciary Committee, first they say, committee staff have a first interview with a man who believes that he, not Judge Kavanaugh, had the encounter with Dr. Ford in 1982 that is the basis of the complaint. And so then it goes on, it says committee have a second interview with a man who believes that he, not Judge. So it's a second interview, not a second man. So they had one interview, they had a second interview, then they had a more in-depth written statement from the man that had been interviewed twice previously, according to the log of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Wednesday night. And then they spoke to him via phone. And so you look at this and you say, wow, that's pretty amazing, because here's a guy who is confessing to sexual assault. But it was 35 years ago. And what you do is she says she was 15 at the time. And so the statutory limitation in Maryland is 7 years after the person turns 18. So you add those 3 years to 18, add another 7, so that's 10 years. That was still 25 years past the statute of limitations. So he has no legal liability in this, in admitting to groping Christine Ford. And so, as I said, if they really want to do something about sexual assault, then you might want to revisit the statute of limitations, because that's what we hear. It's like, well, 35 years ago, well, that happens all the time. Well, if it happens all the time, fix it. Instead of this grandstanding show that you're putting on for this hearing here. And it especially needs to be fixed for the children who are victims of pedophiles. There should be no statute of limitations. That's why Cardinal Pell is back in Australia answering questions, because the Australians finally did the right thing and they took off the statute of limitations for children. Children especially, there should be no statute of limitations for sexual assault against children. And if these caring Democrats really wanted to do something about the problem, that's where they would start. But they don't care about the problem. They don't care about protecting women. They don't care about protecting children. As I pointed out, one of the reasons that got us banned off of Twitter by Jack Dorsey, because I pointed out the fact that all these people, the Democrats especially, like Obama, they say, oh, we care so much about women, and yet they don't. They were demanding that boys, physical boys who imagine themselves to be women, they say, of course, we don't know if they really truly believe that or not, but the Obama administration was threatening to cut off funding to schools if they didn't allow boys in the girls' locker rooms and the showers and the bathrooms. So these are the people that say that they want to protect women and children. And they force men into the bathrooms with the women and children and threaten to cut off funding to the schools if you don't do it. And then don't do anything about the statute of limitations. Before we get into the problems with Christine Blasey Ford's statement, which she is still currently reading, and these are going to be the basis, I'm sure, of questions, because there's a lot of questions about this, contradictions and so forth. Before we do that, I just want to tell you about the specials that we have at InfoWarsStore.com, because that's what funds this program and everything that we do here at InfoWars. We have a special for the listeners of this program, exclusive special for those listeners, 15% off of the ProPure King water filtration system. That is the large ProPure water filter. It's gravity feed, and you can save 15% off if you use the code REALNEWS at checkout for that water filter. We also have 50% off male and female Super Male Vitality, and we have 40% off of Brain Force Plus, as well as Secret 12, our vitamin B12 formulation. Both of those 40% off. And finally, you can save 25% off of Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. It is our final run of that. You can still save 25% off while supplies last. We really do need and appreciate your support. And I'll just mention while we're talking about this, since our streaming has been shut down on Real News, that you can find us. You have a video feed and an audio feed that is at infowars.com/real news. And you can also download podcasts, so you can watch it as a stream or you can download it. That's where you're going to find us, because they're shutting us down everywhere they can. And we'll see when they come to try to shut down our website what happens. Nevertheless, let's go back to Christine Blasey Ford's story. As I mentioned, she can't recall the details. That's number one. She didn't tell anybody, including her best friend or mother at the time. Number three, 4 people that she identified as being at the party, including her lifelong friend, say they weren't at the party. Her lifelong friend said that. Kaiser's lawyer, that's her lifelong friend, told the Senate Judiciary Committee, simply put, Ms. Kaiser does not know Mr. Kavanaugh. She has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present, with or without Dr. Ford. And in addition, these witnesses took oaths, these other individuals that she named, took oaths under penalty of perjury, contradicting Professor Ford's allegations against Kavanaugh. In her original letter to Dianne Feinstein, Ford claimed that Kavanaugh talked to Kaiser, who I just told you, she said through a lawyer, I don't know him. I've never been to a party with him where he was present with or without Dr. Ford. But in her original letter to Dianne Feinstein, Ford claimed that this woman who says, I don't know him, I've never been to a party with the two of them there, I don't even know this guy, said that Kavanaugh talked to Kaiser and Smith right after he assaulted her. They don't remember that. Again, her best friend, her lifelong friend, said, I never met the man, I was never at a party with him, and I never saw the two of them. Number 4, her own immediate family doesn't appear to be backing her up either. Her mother, father, and 2 siblings are all conspicuously absent from a letter of support that was released by a dozen relatives on her husband's side of the family. The letter attests to her honesty and integrity, and one congressional source said, why didn't her parents and brother sign the letter? Number 5, this summer, Ford tried to reach out to old friends from high school and college to jog her memory. They couldn't help her. She said, I've been trying to forget this all my life, and now I'm supposed to remember every little detail. Number 6, yet she still pushed forward with her bombshell charge, and gave that to the Washington Post and to Feinstein. Number 7, she contends that notes that her therapist, and this is key, folks, she contends that notes to her therapist corroborate her account, but her therapist said that she said there were 4 boys in the room. Now she's saying there's 2. Her therapist said that she said she was in her late teens when she was assaulted. Now she says she was only 15. No word on whether or not her therapist notes mentioned Brett Kavanaugh's name. But now the questioning has begun. Let's join the live hearing.
Before you, and I'm sure you have copies of them anyway, 5 pieces of information, and I wanted to go over them. The first is a screenshot of a WhatsApp texting between you and somebody at the Washington Post. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes. This is Rachel Mitchell. Questioning
the
her.
First 2 texts were sent by you on July 6th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then the last one sent by you was on July 10th?
Correct.
Okay. Are those 3 comments accurate?
I will read them, yes. So there's one correction.
Okay.
I've misused the word bystander as an adjective.
Okay.
Bystander means someone that is looking at an assault, and then the person named PJ was not technically a bystander. I was writing very quickly in the sense of urgency, so I would not call him a bystander. He was downstairs, and what I remember of him was he was a tall and a very nice person. I didn't know him well, but that he was downstairs, not anywhere near the event.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'd like to take that word out if it's possible.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. The second is the letter that you wrote to Senator Feinstein dated July 30th of this year.
Yes.
Did you write the letter yourself?
I did.
And since it's dated July 30th, did you write it on that date?
All right, we're going to be back. We've got to go to break. We're going to be right back with live questioning of Dr. Christine Ford. She has given her statement, and now she's being questioned on the details. Details actually do matter. They do matter and when you're making a very serious charge like this, and they go to your credibility. So we're going to join essentially the cross-examination here based on her statement when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight.
Let's go to Jason in New Mexico. Fire away.
Thank you for taking my call. Shout out to you, the crew, and all those that work behind the scenes. And I would tell everybody to commit to the Super Blue toothpaste and the Survival Shield X2 so you don't turn into a transsexual gay toad and run as a Democrat.
Hey! I just came out as a transsexual gay toad. I'm not going to have you slander my people before I run for office as a Democrat.
I know that's right, but really, we should contribute to you guys because I've been given for years and I've seen the production value just skyrocket. I mean, your graphics team, just the content. Everything is going great, and at the same time, there's no better organization that I could give my dollars to see it at work on a daily basis.
Well, and we appreciate you, Jason, and that's why we try to give you the best products. You know, we just don't put something out there and say, hey, please buy it. We do the research and then actually put out the best possible product.
In the 5 years of my support, I have never bought a bad product, and I waste a lot of money on, you go to one of these big box stores, you buy a piece of crap, and it's like, oh, I just throw away $10. You throw $10 at that toothpaste, guarantee it won't be a waste, especially if you love your kids. Why would you give them fluoride? Nevertheless,
yeah, just go look. Here's what I would say to the audience. If you're not using Super Blue fluoride toothpaste, go home and look at the toothpaste that you're using, and on the back of it, it will say harmful if swallowed, contact poison control for 0.01% of fluoride. 0.01 harmful if swallowed. They put that in water.
Yep, that's if you love the kids, though. Hey, I'm not telling you how to spend your money.
Yeah, you know what, good point. If you don't love your kids, just keep giving them the fluoride. Yeah, that's fine. No matter what the globalists want to do, no matter what politicians want to do, this country is going to make it.
The War Room. Infowars.com/show. You're listening to Real News with David Knight. From the Infowars.com studios in Austin, Texas, it's The Real News with your host, David Knight.
Welcome back. We have the live questioning of Christine Ford. She's given her statement, and now we have details and contradictions that are being pulled out in that. And so we're going to go right back to this live questioning of Christine Ford as part of the confirmation hearing of Brett Kavanaugh. Here's the hearing.
Those are what the letters are.
Don't look at this.
I want to thank you very much for your testimony.
This is
I
Dianne
know how
Feinstein.
very, very hard it is.
Why did you hold the? Somebody needs to ask her a question. Why she held this stuff for months?
Why have you held it to yourself all these years?
Why did you hold it for months, Feinstein?
Can you indicate what the reasons are?
Well, I haven't held it in all these years. I did disclose it in the confines of therapy, where I felt like it was an appropriate place to cope with the sequelae of the event.
Well, can you tell us what impact the events had on you?
Well, I think that
And again, as I said, if they're really concerned about doing something about this, these hearings would be about getting rid of the statute of limitations instead of this political manipulation. But Dianne Feinstein held this information for months.
The types of things that I've been coping with.
Morning,
So more specifically, claustrophobia, panic, and that type of thing.
Is that the reason for the second door, front door?
Correct.
Is claustrophobia?
Correct. It doesn't. Our house does not look aesthetically pleasing from the curb.
I see. And do you have that second front door?
Yes,
Yes.
it now is a place to host Google interns because we live near Google, so we get to
Google.
and other students can live.
Can you tell us, is there any other way this has affected your life?
The primary impact was in the initial 4 years after the
Frankenstein
event.
bitch.
I struggled academically. I struggled very much in Chapel Hill and in college. When I was 17 and went off to college, I had a very hard
She went to
time,
Chapel Hill.
more so than others.
I know Chapel Hill.
Forming new friendships and especially friendships with boys. And I had academic problems.
One of the things they wanted to talk
What were
about
when
psychological
when
therapy
we
that she was
spoke,
undergoing, and this is the stuff about
and
the
it
two
became
doors
very
and so forth.
clear how
She
deeply
did not.
you felt about
at
this
that,
and the need that you
the
wanted to remain
question is whether or not she
confidential.
mentioned Brett
Can you
Kavanaugh's
talk
name.
a little bit?
I would like for somebody to ask that about the notes of the psychiatrist, because the psychiatrist said that she said there were 4 boys, according to her notes. Now she says there's 2. She said she was in her late teens, according to the psychiatrist notes. Now she says she was 15. So there's some contradictions there. But the key thing is whether or not she said this was Brett Kavanaugh, because we've had another individual come forward and give 2 interviews, a written statement, and a phone interview to the Senate saying, I'm the guy that she's talking about in 1982. Let's go out to questioning.
Popular, and that it was a sure vote. I was calculating daily the risk benefit for me of coming forward and wondering to where it was headed anyway, and that I would just be personally annihilated.
How did you decide to come forward?
You'll be a hero
Ultimately,
for a while
because
for doing this.
reporters were sitting outside of my home and trying to talk to my dog through the window to calm the dog down. And a reporter appeared in my graduate classroom, and I mistook her for a student. And she came up to ask me a question, and I thought that she was a student, and it turned out that she was a reporter. So at that point, I felt like enough was enough. People were calling my colleagues at Stanford and leaving messages on their voicemails and on their email saying that they knew my name. Clearly, people knew my address because they were out in front of my house.
All right, we've got to take a commercial break. We're going to come back with more questioning. Right now, you have Dianne Feinstein questioning Christine Ford. Somebody needs to question Dianne Feinstein and ask her why she sat on this for months and brought it up just a day or so before they were supposed to vote last week. We'll be right back.
Imagine 20 years ago if I would have told you that in 2018, a Nazi collaborator, George Soros, would be in control of our media, our government, and that anybody that criticized him would be banned from the internet and even banned from commerce and being able to process credit cards. Well, Soros bought control of PayPal last month. And even though we've been working with PayPal for 20 years, they banned us. But the magic word, hate speech. Now, that was a Nazi collaborator, like Soros, it'd be okay. That's how crazy all this is. So they're betting that you're just going to put up with the abuse like conservatives always do and just go away. But the biggest thing you can do is call Congress, call the White House, call Talk Radio. Make a big deal out of this because other conservatives are next. It's already happening. And with our regular credit card processors we have at InfoWarsStore.com, get in there and get some of the amazing products we've got. So you can't lose. You get great products while you're funding the information war at InfoWarsStore.com. You can let that old Nazi collaborator Soros tell you can shove it up as you know what.
You found it. It's the real news. Live from the InfoWars.com studios in Austin, Texas, it's your host, David Knight.
Welcome back. I'm David Knight. We're going to be rejoining. We've been giving you excerpts from the live questioning. We've had Christine Ford give her statement, read her statement, and now the questioning has begun. And of course, it's very important to ask her details. She said that she first mentioned that it was Brett Kavanaugh that attacked her back, and she thinks it was 1982, but she's not sure exactly when or where, what day, what month, what city, what street, what house. She's not exactly sure. But when she was talking about this in therapy, saying that she is suffering from claustrophobia, that's what you just heard with Dianne Feinstein. She said she brought it up for the first time that it was Brett Kavanaugh. The psychiatrist's notes say that she said there were 4 boys in the bedroom, so she was in her late teens. Now she says there's 2 boys in the bedroom, and she was 15. Another inconsistency, she also told the Washington Post that she was upset when Trump won in 2016 because Kavanaugh was mentioned as a Supreme Court pick. But Kavanaugh was not added to Trump's list of possibilities until November 2017. Some of these details really do matter. She's not going to be questioned on inconsistencies or lacking details, however, by Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein needs to be questioned as to her political motives for holding this for over 2 months and releasing it a couple of days, just 2 days before the voting was supposed to take place a week ago. And so we have the hearing going on right now. We'll go back to that questioning, and then later today we will have Brett Kavanaugh will be giving his statement, and he will be cross-examined by senators as well. But let's go back to the cross-examining of the questioning of Dr. Christine Ford.
Leading up to that.
Yes.
Let me ask just a few questions to make sure that you've thought of everything, okay? You indicated that you were at the country
This is
club
Rachel Mitchell.
swimming
She's special
that
counsel
day?
for Republicans.
That's my best estimate of how this could have happened.
Okay. And when you say best estimate, is that based on the fact that you said you went there pretty much every day?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall prior to getting there? So I'm only talking about up to the gathering.
Okay.
Had you had anything to drink?
Not at all.
Were you on any sort of medication?
None.
Do you recall knowing before you went who was going to be at that gathering?
I recall that expecting that Mark Judge and Leland would be at that gathering.
Okay. Do you recall an expectation that Brett Kavanaugh would be there?
I don't recall whether or not I expected that.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the gathering up from the time you arrived till when you went up the stairs, just that period of time, okay? What was the atmosphere like at the gathering?
Again, she said that Leland, her lifelong friend, was going to be there.
And
Leland
Mr.
said
Judge
she
were
was never at a party with Brett
extremely
Kavanaugh. She doesn't
inebriated.
know who Brett
They'd clearly
Kavanaugh
been
was.
drinking prior, and the other people at the party were not. The living
Can
room
I
was
ask you just to follow up on that? When you said it was clear that they had been drinking prior, do you mean prior to the time you had gotten there or prior to the time they had arrived?
prior to the time that they arrived. I don't recall who arrived first, though, whether it was me or them.
Okay, please continue.
Okay. So I recall that I can sketch a floor plan. I recall that it was a sparsely furnished, fairly modest living room. And it was not really a party like the news has made it sound. It was not. It was just a gathering that I assumed was going to lead to a party later on that those boys would attend, because they tended to have parties later at night than I was allowed to stay out. So it was kind of a pre-gathering.
Was it loud?
No, not in the living room.
Besides the music that you've described that was playing in the bedroom, was there any other music or television or anything like that that was adding?
No.
Okay, so there wasn't a stereo playing downstairs?
No.
Okay.
Senator Leahy. Dr. Ford, thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman, you know, the way to make this inquiry truly credible is to do what we've always done when new information about a nominee comes to light. To use your words this morning, you want to reach the truth. The easy way to do that, ask the FBI.
This is Senator Patrick Leahy. Evidently, the way they're going to do this is have the Republican special counsel ask her some questions on details, and then they will give her a certain amount of time, and then they're going to go to a Democrat senator who will be friendly to what she has to say, go back and support her. So now we're back to the Democrat support therapy. Here's Senator Leahy.
Chairman, you and I were both here 27 years ago. At that time, the Senate failed Anita Hill. I said I believed her, but I'm concerned that we're doing a lot.
Anita Hill believed Bill Clinton. She defended Bill Clinton against Juanita Broaddrick. Anita Hill defended Bill Clinton against Paula Jones. Anita Hill defended Bill Clinton against Kathleen Willey.
I know, and I hear from so many in my own state of Vermont. There are millions of victims and survivors out there who've been inspired by your courage. I am. Bravery is contagious. Indeed, that's the driving force behind the Me Too movement. And you sharing your story is going to have a lasting, positive impact on so many survivors in our country. We owe you a debt of gratitude for that, Doctor. Now, some senators have suggested you were simply mixed up about who assaulted you. An ally of Judge Kavanaugh in the White House even promoted a wild theory about a Kavanaugh lookalike. You immediately rejected that theory. As did
And also, somebody has
innocent
given
man
two
who had been
interviews, a
called
written
a
statement, and a phone interview saying that they
In
were the
fact, they sent a
person.
letter to this
So
committee
it's not just a
forcefully
theory about
rejecting
somebody that
this
looked like. I don't know if
absurd
this is the same guy or
theory
not
that's been sent
that came forward with that
into
statement.
that in the record without objection.
And
Now,
I'm sure that at his age, Senator Leahy is
how did you
sympathetic
know
to her
Brett
problems of
Kavanaugh
memory.
and Mark Judge? And is it possible that you would mix them up with somebody else?
No, it is not. And the person that was blamed for the incident is actually the person who introduced me to them originally. So he was a member of Columbia Country Club, and I don't want to talk about him because I think it's unfair, but he is the person that introduced me to them.
But you would not mix up somebody else with Brett Kavanaugh, is that correct?
Correct.
Or Mark Judge?
Correct.
Well, then
Well,
let's
she's
go back
obviously
to
got
the
a better memory than her
What
lifelong
is
friend
the
Layla,
strongest memory you
who
have?
Leyland Kaiser,
Strongest
who
memory
says,
of the
I never
incident,
met Brett
something
Kavanaugh.
that you
I was
cannot
never at a
forget.
party
Take
with
whatever
Brett
time you
Kavanaugh
need.
and Christine Ford.
Indelible in the hippocampus is the laughter, the uproarious laughter between the two, and they're having fun at my expense.
You've never forgotten that laughter. You've never forgotten them laughing at you.
You lying
Laughing
whore!
with each other.
She's a lying little bitch.
You
can
were the
tell.
object of the laughter.
I was, underneath one of them.
Make
while
sure
the
to
two
rub your
laughed.
eye with the little bit of onion
Two
juice that
friends
you
having
got
a really
that they
good time
gave
with
you.
one another.
We'll make it look real.
Let me enter into the record
My
a
ugly
statement by
bitch.
the
You want to
National
fuck her
Task
anyway.
Force to
I
End
mean, excuse
Domestic
me.
Violence.
Without objection, so ordered.
And a letter from 24 members of the House of Representatives urging
If you're concerned about
committee
domestic
use the
violence, don't you
NTF's
have hearings
trauma-informed
about getting rid
approach
of the statute of limitations,
questioning Dr. Ford.
especially for children? But they don't do that. They
And a
spend
letter
their
from
time doing
another
this. But
160
she said it is
members of the
indelible
House
in the
asking
hippocampus.
to delay
That is
those
emphatic.
who've been hurt.
All right, we're gonna
Without objection, so ordered.
rejoin with the show trial over the Kavanaugh hearings. Stay with us. We'll have more juicy things that will be indelibly written on your hippocampus. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is, without a prescription, the strongest FDA cleared silver you can get. Just a slightly watered down version of the top selling prescription Mega Silver. That is the savior now at the hospitals, clinics, you name it. It is super silver wound dressing gel, trademarked for first aid management of minor cuts, lacerations, abrasions, first and second degree burns, skin irritations. It is sold mainly to hospitals. Some medical grade stores have it. It's just incredible. It's $29.95 out of the gates. This is next level. Bacteria and viruses don't like this. It's just a little bit less strong than the prescription silver. It's a well-known product sold to hospitals and clinics, and it's what people that are doctors and others use themselves. When all else fails, as you know, a lot of stuff isn't working now in infections. It's another weapon in the arsenal. I can tell you right now, my dad is an oral surgeon and dentist, and we were searching out the very best, most powerful silvers used by hospitals. And he ended up getting a hold of one of the top companies in the world, and it turned out they're listeners. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, 888-253-3139. I tasked my father, who's gotten stuff approved before, gotten FDA approval before with other stuff. I tasked him, I said, find me the ultimate silver. Find me what is the weapons grade they're using, the military, hospitals, you name it. This is it. There's only one other silver stronger, and it's by prescription. This stuff is thermonuclear, nanotech, super small particles which go in electromagnetically, just goes right to the heart of something. It's gone.
Super Silver Wound Dressing Gel contains the powerful Silver Sol technology that revolutionized the colloidal nano silver market as the only FDA certified wound treatment product of its kind. This gel has been shown to fight infection and irritation while also helping speed up the healing process. And that's the way I like it. Grab a bottle of Super Silver Wound Dressing Gel right now at InfoWarsLife.com. Hey, what happens if you try to order your favorite InfoWars Life product only to find out they're sold out? Yeah, I know it kind of sucks, but there is a solution. All you got to do is go to InfoWarsStore.com and click on Auto Ship. Bam! Problem solved just like that. And now you're scheduled for regular delivery. That means no more back orders, and you'll never run out of your favorite InfoWars Life products again. Pretty cool. But guess what? It gets better. When you sign up for Auto Ship at InfoWarsStore.com, you get an additional 10% off that product. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. So what are you waiting for? Support the InfoWar. Order and click on Auto Ship at InfoWarsStore.com or call 1-888-253-3139.
After the success of Alpha Power, we decided to make a new Powerhouse Vitality formula built with the female biochemistry in mind. After searching for the incredible ingredients to meet those needs, we're proud to bring you Ultimate Female Force. All Info Warriors know how important keeping up with their vitality truly is. With all the changes to diets, stress, and other outside forces, keeping your metabolism and well-being up is getting more difficult. That's why Ultimate Female Force is such a powerhouse formula. Together with Super Female Vitality or by itself, Ultimate Female Force is just what you need to help boost your metabolism and support your physical and mental energy levels. With the powerful root-based formula, Ultimate Female Force can help you reach your true peak potential. Don't wait to see what you can really do. Show the world what true female power looks like with Ultimate Female Force at InfoWarsStore.com.
You're listening to Real News with David Knight.
Welcome back. We now have the long-awaited show trial for the Democrats taking place right now at Capitol Hill, the Senate Judiciary Committee. And the way this thing is set up, they had her read her statement, Dr. Christine Ford, because she's the only one of the people of all these accusations that have come out that actually would come. And of course, she had to think about it for a while. She made these accusations back in July, wrote Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein did not release this information until a day or so before the vote was to be held. Then they said, all right, we were going to have the vote last Thursday. Can you come in and tell everybody your story? No, I can't do it on Monday. So now she is finally doing it today. But of course, Ramirez, the second person to accuse Brett Kavanaugh, said, I'm not going to talk about that. We had some new allegations come out from Avenatti. Well, that woman's credibility is certainly suspect based on her past history of allegations and having to have a restraining order put on her by her ex-boyfriend. And then we've had another very unusual occurrence last night. We had some individual who's not been named yet. Some man contacted the Senate Judiciary Committee, gave them two separate interviews and a written statement and then a phone interview saying that he was the individual that had groped Christine Ford. Now, she is adamant that she remembers that it was Brett Kavanaugh. As a matter of fact, she said, as she was talking to Senator Leahy, that it is indelibly etched into her hippocampus. And of course, hippocampus is believed to be the part of the brain that is responsible for short-term memory. And she appears to have very short-term memory about a great deal of things. It keeps track of the details, many of which she has forgotten. And of course, the other people that were allegedly at this gathering, this meeting or whatever you want to call it. She said it wasn't a party, it was a gathering. The other people, including her lifelong friend, say they weren't there. And her lifelong friend said, I was never at any party with Brett Kavanaugh. I don't know this guy. I never met the man. That's her lifelong friend, Leyland Kaiser. Before we go back to the questioning, I just want to play a quick clip for you from President Trump, who had this comment about the hearings on Fox News yesterday.
What do you make of where the Kavanaugh hearings are now? There's a new set of demands that have come out.
I think it's a very sad situation. He's an outstanding person. And frankly, Sean, to see what's going on is just very, very sad. You say, why didn't somebody call the FBI 36 years ago? I mean, you could also say, when did this all happen? What's going on? To take a man like this and besmirch. Now, with that being said, let her have her say, and let's see how it all works out. But I don't think you can delay it any longer. They've delayed it a week already.
And you've been very accommodating.
I have been accommodating. I say, let her say what she has to say, and let's see how it all comes out. But they've delayed it a week, and they have to get on with it.
All right, so that was President Ford. President Ford. No, it's Christine Ford, Dr. Ford, that we're going to go back to. That was President Trump a week ago at the rally, September the 20th. And now she is having her say, and she is having her hippocampus probed for details, cross-examination, cross-questioning at the Senate. And let's return back to that live event.
Testifying here today, terrified though you may be, the fact that you have called for an FBI investigation of this incident, the fact that you are prepared to name both Judge Kavanaugh and eyewitness Mark Judge stands in sharp contrast to the obstruction we've seen on the other side. The FBI should have investigated your charges as they did in the Anita Hill hearing, but they did not. Mark Judge should
maybe
be
he didn't hear Joe Biden. Maybe he wasn't there when Joe Biden said
required
that. We played the clip for you yesterday.
under
Pull that down
oath,
just a little bit while
but he has not.
Doing his thing.
Judge
Let me
Kavanaugh,
explain
if
something
he
to Dick.
truly believes there's
Maybe
no
we should go back and review the statements made by Joe Biden when he was talking to Clarence Thomas. He said, everybody's talking about the FBI. FBI doesn't have anything to do with this. The FBI is going to go interview him and go interview her, and then they're going to tell us what the two of them said, and they're not going to draw any conclusions. So shut up about the FBI. That was Joe Biden back in 1991. So 27 years ago, and maybe Dick Durbin doesn't remember that, but he should check his hippocampus, or maybe go back to YouTube, because it's all over YouTube. Let's go back to Dick Durbin.
Can create a seamless story, but a trauma survivor cannot be expected to remember every painful detail. That's what Senator Leahy has mentioned earlier. One question is critical. In Judge Kavanaugh's opening testimony, which we will hear after you leave, this is what he says. I never had any sexual or physical encounter of any kind with Dr. Ford. I am not questioning that Dr. Ford may have been sexually assaulted by some person in some place at some time. Last night, the Republican staff of this committee released to the media a timeline that shows that they've interviewed two people who claimed they were the ones who actually assaulted you. I'm asking you to address this new defense of mistaken identity directly. Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
100%.
Fucking hard.
In the letter which you sent to Senator Feinstein, you wrote, I have not knowingly seen Kavanaugh since the assault. I did see Mark Judge once at the Potomac Village Safeway, where he was extremely uncomfortable in seeing me. Would you please describe that encounter at the Safeway with Mark Judge and what led you to believe he was uncomfortable?
Yes, I was going to the Potomac Village Safeway. This is the one on the corner of Falls and River Road. And I was with my mother, and I was a teenager, so I wanted her to go in one door and me go in the other. So I chose the wrong door because the door I chose was the one where Mark Judge
fucking
was,
profit, you bitch.
Looked like he was working there.
Look into what she
and
does.
Arranging the shopping carts. And I said hello to him. And his face was white and very uncomfortable saying hello back. And we had previously been friendly at the times that we saw each other over the previous 2 years, albeit not very many times. We had always been friendly with one another. I wouldn't characterize him as not friendly. He was just nervous and not really wanting to speak with me. And he looked a little bit ill.
How long did this occur after the incident?
I would estimate 6 to 8 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before we take a break, I can't let what Senator Durbin said. By the way, he's my friend. We work on a lot of legislation together. But you talked about the obstruction from the other side. I cannot let it go by what you've heard me say so many times, that between July 30th and September 13th, there were 45 days. This committee could have been investigating this situation, and her privacy would have been protected. So something happened here in between on your side that the whole country, well, not the whole country should have known about it. No, not know about it. We should have investigated it. But we'll take a break now for 15 minutes.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back. Again, we're going to take a look at the key thing here. Is that she said there were 4 people: Brett Kavanaugh, Mark Judge, Patrick Smith, and her lifelong friend, Leyland Kaiser, who says, I was never at a group meeting with any of these people. I've never met Brett Kavanaugh in my life. That's her lifelong friend saying that. We'll be right back. Stay with us. I'm David Knight.
Oh, her lifelong friend must be lying because she's going to be telling the truth.
Google is developing an app to screen out content that the Chinese government considers too sensitive for its citizens. Translation: Google is helping China silence its political opposition.
China's chilling dictatorship is moving quickly to introduce social scorecards in which all citizens will be monitored 24/7 and ranked on their behavior.
A high rating means you get benefits like no deposit of renting house or skipping airport security, but the low scores means you can't rent a car or apply for visas. The Chinese government expects to make this system mandatory in 2020.
Google is planning to launch a censored version of its search engine in China.
The Chinese government, as people probably know, has a quite comprehensive internet censorship system set up, and it's known as the Great Firewall. It blocks all kinds of information about, political opponents of the ruling Communist Party regime there, all kinds of things that they're blocking out.
Companies agreed to ban particular sites or search times on topics like human rights, democracy, and free speech.
Google's really the CIA, but it's leftist run now, so it's run over to China, and it's a civil war inside the intelligence agencies.
These are serious people plotting to finagle the searches, which is what Google sells to us as being fair and unbiased.
Google alone could determine the outcome of almost any American election just by altering its search suggestions. We'd never know what happened.
Well, Google is being accused of hiding negative stories about Hillary and her campaign by changing its algorithm to bury stories like the Clinton body count story. That's according to website InfoWars.
So Google won't work with the Pentagon on artificial intelligence, but it's officially moved its main operations for AI to China and is merging with the Chinese government, letting them have all the technology.
So they're working on behalf of the fascist Chinese government, sending propaganda to its people to keep them under the control of the government. But we shouldn't worry about the fact that they have a chokehold on all human information in English. Not a big deal.
I mean, that's a lot you just said there, but we shouldn't worry.
It's all true.
So Google always swears that its liberal, anti-Trump views of the top people doesn't affect the search product. But here is documented proof of some Google executives wanting to tamper with searches as a form of political activism.
The Chinese government, let's remember, imprisons dissidents and Christians daily. They have more than 1 million Muslims in re-education camps. But the legitimate election of President Trump somehow conflicts with Google's vaunted values? Give me a break.
Google was working to get Hillary Clinton elected.
If a Google user types in Clinton body, they get car repair shop results instead of a story that talks about a list of people tied to the Clintons who have died under mysterious circumstances over the last 3 decades.
A new bombshell development reveals Hillary Clinton's leaked emails were likely responsible for the deaths of up to 20 CIA agents working in China.
Over a dozen CIA agents may have been killed as a result of Hillary Clinton's
Clinton's leaked emails.
The real election meddling is by Facebook and Google and others that are shadow banning people, that are outright banning people, and they're blocking conservatives involved in their own First Amendment political speech. Shame on the mainstream corporate media for not defending the First Amendment, but instead attack-dogging, calling for federal regulators to shut down independent free press, working with big tech.
You're not allowed to get the InfoWars official app on your iPhone. You're not allowed to watch the Alex Jones Show on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. But if you're the Chinese government and you want access to every citizen and all their data and everything they've ever done on an Apple product, good to go, baby. Good to go. And the left in America loves it.
You're listening to Real News with David Knight. He's not sorry when snowflakes can't handle the truth. It's your host, David Knight.
Trying to make some sense of it all.
Welcome back. The Senate Judiciary Committee is taking a 15-minute break. Pretty tough for them to go more than an hour. These guys are advanced age, as we saw. So they have a great deal of sympathy for people who can't remember details. But of course, one of the things that Dr. Christine Ford said was that it was indelibly etched into her hippocampus. And so they are probing her hippocampus for more details that perhaps weren't so indelibly etched, that have to do with the credibility of her statements and the credibility of her memory. And as we heard in that very last bit of questioning, Dick Durbin directly confronted her. We've had, and I haven't seen the second statement, but apparently there are two men who have come forward and said that they were a part of the groping allegation, that they were the basis for this groping allegation. One individual gave an interview, a second interview, and then a more in-depth written statement, and then the staff spoke with him via phone. And again, you might ask, why would somebody admit to a sexual assault? Well, it's because of statute of limitations. If she says that she was 15 years old at the time, then according to Maryland law, you have 7 years from the time the individual turns 18. So that would be 10 years taken off of the 35-year time differential where these statements are coming out. So that's still 25 years past the statute of limitations. And as I've said before, if they really want to do anything about protecting victims, they should be spending their time getting rid of the statute of limitations, especially for children. They did that in Australia. That is why Cardinal Pell is answering questions in Australia about child abuse there. That needs to be done. This is a show trial. This is something that is shameful in the extent of how the Democrats, especially Feinstein, have manipulated this to try to delay the hearing. I don't know if they believe these allegations, these specific allegations or not. Again, at that event, we'll just call it, she said it wasn't a party, well, it was a gathering or what. Let's just say that it was an event or a meeting or whatever. The people that were there, the 4 people that were there, 3 of them were male. And so you could say, well, they're just saying that they weren't there so they can, because they might be charged with this or whatever. But yet the other one, the 4th individual that she named and said was her lifelong friend, Leyland Kaiser, said, I was never at anything remotely like that. I've never been at a party or a gathering or a meeting or whatever that Brett Kavanaugh was at. I've never met the man at all, ever. So it's her hippocampus against her lifelong friend's hippocampus, and we will be back to that when they come back. I just want to talk a little bit about Don Lemon and his defense of the protesters running Ted Cruz out of the restaurant the other day. Here's a clip of Don Lemon defending the protesters.
Survivors, right, of sexual abuse. I'm one. As a person of color, I know that, especially during the civil rights movement and now, sometimes the only agency you have is to protest and to get in someone's face. You don't have any power when it comes to government or and in society. I don't like it, but it is one reason I'm not a public official, that I'm not running for office. In a way, I think it goes with the territory. I don't like that they were blocking his wife. But that's what he signed up for. And as a strict constitutionalist, which Ted Cruz is, he knows that it's protected under the First Amendment. Again, I don't like it. I wouldn't want it to happen.
Well, but that's
I
the
don't
point.
like it happen to his wife. But that's what he signed up for. That's part of the deal.
I don't know that that's what he signed up for, but that may be what the price is of being in public service. That
signed up for being run out of restaurants. That's what Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed up for too, right? No, the First Amendment says you have a right to peacefully assemble and to redress your grievances with people. Okay, peacefully assemble and redress your grievances. Does that include mindless bullying, harassment, and hate? And doesn't that violate Twitter's rules to do that? I mean, they did that. They put it up on Twitter. They doxed Gavin McInnes, the same group, and so forth. There was a great satire on this from Babylon Bee. Liberals unveiled their new strategy to prove that they're compassionate and caring. Screaming in restaurants. That's their new strategy for compassion and care. So screaming at people in restaurants, as they did to Ted Cruz and his wife. They were shouted at and chased from a restaurant near the Capitol in a demonstration of love and concern. And then they quote an activist, Anthony Walton. And of course, this is a satire piece. There is no Anthony Walton. But the purported Anthony Walton says, we just hate Ted Cruz so much. It was great. We hate him because of some policy.
They took my channel. They took everything down.
Gays, maybe. But no, wait. This was about Kavanaugh and how Cruz, something about that, which we're really concerned about. And because we care so much, we need to scream at him and chase him away, which is awesome. The left's previous attempts at compassion have involved such things as wearing black masks, punching people, and using mobs for intimidation, writes the Babylon Bee. Yelling at people while they're trying to eat is a newer way for them to show that they care. And they hope that it's just as effective as all those other strategies. So there you go. Now, this is not a satire. Hillary Clinton, let's go back to July. And of course, maybe Dianne Feinstein didn't really clue in Hillary Clinton either. Maybe Dianne Feinstein was hoarding this little thing to the last minute. Can't even let Hillary know because Hillary might spill the beans. But going back to July, Hillary Clinton says the Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh will bring back slavery. This is the headline from PJ Media. She said at the time, back in July, Hillary Clinton, and this is not satire, folks. Hillary Clinton said, it is a blatant attempt by this administration to shift the balance for the court for decades and to reverse decades of progress. Maybe she means progressiveness, which is not the same thing as progress, as socialism. It is statism. It is fascism. But anyway, no, this is not a blatant attempt by the administration to shift the balance of the court. This is a desperate attempt, Hillary, by the people who voted in the last election to shift the balance of power away from you and away from Washington and away from that kind of intrusion into our life. And I hope that we, the people, do get that shift of power away from you. And then she went on to say this. She said, I used to worry that the Republicans wanted to turn the clock back to the 1950s. Now I worry they want to turn it back to the 1850s. In other words, back to slavery. But let me ask you, who was it that was in power in the 1950s? Who was it that was putting in the Jim Crow laws in the 1950s, Hillary? That would be your party. And who was it that was defending the people who attacked the civil rights marchers in Birmingham, Alabama, who burned their bus, who attacked them, who kicked them on the ground? Who was it that defended those Ku Klux Klan guys and got them away with it? Oh, that would have been Morris Dees, the guy who made a lot of money for defending the Ku Klux Klan there in Birmingham, and then set out the civil rights movement until he jumped back in to protect everybody from the then defunct, essentially, Ku Klux Klan at the end of the civil rights movement. He jumped back in with the Southern Poverty Law Center, the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's the hypocrisy of the Democrats. And of course, going back to the 1850s, it was the Democrats with slavery then as well. But that's not satire. That was Hillary Clinton. Gina Haspel is trying to recruit more foreign spies, they say, as the director of the CIA. Well, good luck with that, Gina, because Hillary Clinton is kind of put you in a bad spot. Because as part of leaving her emails available to everybody. And remember, the Chinese had put a little bit of code into her not-so-private server that would send them a courtesy copy of every email that she received or sent as head of the State Department. And during her tenure as head of the State Department and ending with the point, about which she got out, December of 2012, at that point in time, she was defending herself pretty much full time against what she had done, betraying people at Benghazi. But during that other period of time, the Chinese government was rounding up all those CIA spies and executing them. See, that's what happens when the CIA and the other people don't protect their own. When Hillary Clinton and the other people like that get away with it, I wouldn't be a foreign spy for the CIA because they're not going to protect their information, and they're not going to protect you either. And they're not going to do anything about the people who betray you, like Hillary Clinton. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm David Knight.
Fueling your body is hard work. That's why we've introduced the InfoWars Life Daily Digestive Pack to help you fuel it right. Combine Flora Life Everyday Maintenance and Carnivore to help you fuel your gut and body and take advantage of the power. And support recovery. Try the InfoWars Life Daily Digestive Pack today.
We all know the importance of fish oils. While we are sure to provide them for ourselves, it's just as important to make sure your kids get their EPA and DHA too. Honor Roll is a powerful DHA fish oil formula for your child, built from the ground up to support your child's development. This formula uses wild anchovy fish oil, ultra-purified krill oil, and wild salmon fish oil with vitamins to boost your child's mind and body. With this fish oil formula, you can support your child's optimal heart, joint, cognitive, and brain health while providing DHA, which has been shown to be essential for your child's brain growth spurts. Built on powerful ingredients with 580 milligrams of high DHA omega-3s, this formula is highly refined to eliminate nearly all heavy metals. If you're looking for a formula to help your child grow, look no further. Try Honor Roll from InfoWars Life at InfoWarsStore.com.
Now! They think you're a goldfish! I've been betting on you my whole life! I believe in you! I don't think you're stupid! One man separates the woman, all genitals are cut off! And we're kicking these traitors' asses politically, and we're not backing down at her! I want to get these people! We're winning! I can feel the spirit rising! Can't you? We have broken their back! Yes, I can feel it! Let's go! Come on, 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 come on! Vengeance is coming! Fire is coming! The real revolution against you is coming! And you will burn in hell!
It's really hard to have the energy at the end of the day to still get to the gym or to go for a run or go to the park or heck, even take your dog for a walk. Believe me, I know. I spend hours in front of a screen and then hours in front of bright lights every day. But thanks to Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsStore.com, I still have that energy. There's no way I could have the energy at the end of a long day to fight back against the chemicals in the food and water, to fight back against the modern day lifestyle with the screen time and the extended hours, to still have the stamina and endurance, energy and drive to get to the gym, get to the park, and get exercise that you need for your health. So go to InfoWarsStore.com and get Super Male Vitality before it's gone. This is actually our last run of Super Male Vitality. So I want you to experience Super Male Vitality before it's too late. Unleash the Super Male in you. Super Male Vitality from InfoWarsStore.com.
You're listening to Real News with David Knight.
Welcome back. We have one more segment. Of course, they've taken a recess at the questioning of Dr. Christine Ford, and there's a back and forth. The process is that they have a Republican special counsel who is questioning her on details, and she'll do that for a limited amount of time, and then they'll go to a Democrat senator who will give her aid and support and comfort. So they go through this process. And we just heard Dick Durbin accusing the Republicans of obstruction. Maybe he doesn't remember the details of what happened. And before they went to break, Senator Grassley said, well, I really take exception to that. He said, I'll remind you that Feinstein had this letter from Dr. Ford for 45 days. She sat on that and then released it like 2 days before they were supposed to have the vote. Why'd they do that? There would have been ample time for us to do this and to protect her privacy and so forth. So maybe, you know, it's become a part of this hearing, I guess, because Dr. Ford said it was indelibly that night, and those events were indelibly etched. The details were etched on her hippocampus, the area of the brain that allegedly stores details and short-term memory. But there's a lot that she can't remember in terms of details. So maybe we should send some Brain Force Plus to Dick Durbin, help him to remember the last 45 days. Maybe he could also remember, as he began by talking about the importance of having the FBI question everybody. Maybe he could remember 1991. And everybody's got the clips up. I played the clip yesterday of Joe Biden saying at the time during the Clarence Thomas hearings that the FBI says, it's enough about the FBI. The FBI doesn't have anything to do with this. They're not going to draw a conclusion. The FBI will interview him. It'll interview her. It'll say, he said this, she said that, and they'll just present that to us. There's no conclusion to any of that. And so he said, so shut up about the FBI. But here we are, 27 years later, and Dick Durbin is still talking about it. So let's get some Brain Force Plus to Dick Durbin and to Dianne Feinstein, help remember these details, and maybe to Christine Ford, since only a few things were indelibly etched on her memory. You can get that Brain Force Plus to send to them at InfoWarsStore.com, 40% off. Also 40% off of Secret 12, our vitamin B12 formula. And for the listeners of this program, you can save 15% off of the ProPure King Gravity Feed water filter, the large one. That is a big savings. You can get that 15% off the large ProPure King water filter. Just type in the code REALNEWS at checkout at InfoWarsStore.com. And it's very important, folks, that you support us because Real News has been shut down off of Twitter. Jack Dorsey doesn't like me talking about the fact that Obama and the Democrats won't do anything to protect women and children. As a matter of fact, their agenda is to threaten them, demanding that males, people who are physically male, be given free access to women's restrooms, to locker rooms in schools, to showers and so forth, and threatening a couple of years ago to withhold funding. I talked about that yesterday. Now I'm in jail. I'm in timeout, Real News. We can't stream it there. So if you want to see anything streamed, go to InfoWarsStore.com/Real News. And of course, if you go to watch at InfoWars.com, you can see all of our shows there. Alex Jones' show, this show, Owen's show, The War Room, with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone. You can see all those. You can watch them. Any of these shows, they stream 24/7. You can get it on video. You can get it on audio. We're going to have to be the ones to broadcast that out and to pay for that bandwidth. So we really would appreciate your support because that's the only way you're going to see this. Let's go back to the live hearings. They have now resumed. And let's go back to the live questioning. These are the live hearings back at the Senate Judiciary Committee of Dr. Christine Ford.
Date, and I would like to be more helpful about the date. And if I knew when Mark Judge worked at the Potomac Safeway, then I would be able to be more helpful in that way. So I'm just using memories of when I got my driver's license. I was 15 at the time, and I did not drive home from that party or to that party. And once I did have my driver's license, I liked to drive myself. So
I assume the legal driving age was 16.
So that's how she came up with it.
Now, you've talked about attending therapy.
What year? What?
In your text to the Washington Post dated 7/6, so that's the very first statement we have from you, you put in there, quote, have therapy records talking about it. I want to make sure I understand that. Did you already have your therapy records at that time?
I had looked at them online to see if they existed, yes.
Okay, so this was something that was available to you via a computer, like a patient portal?
Actually, no, I was in the office of a provider.
Okay.
She helped me go through the record to locate whether I had record of this conversation that I had remembered.
Did you show a full or partial set of those marriage therapy records to the Washington Post?
I don't remember. I remember summarizing for her what they said. So I'm not quite sure if I actually gave her the record.
Okay. So it's possible that the reporter did not see these notes.
I don't know if I can't recall whether she saw them directly or if I just told her what they said.
Have you shown them to anyone else besides your counsel?
Just the counsel.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that Brett Kavanaugh's name is not listed in those notes?
His name is not listed in those notes.
Would it also be fair to say that the therapist notes that we've been talking about say that there were 4 boys in the room?
It describes the sexual assault, and it says erroneously by 4 boys. So the therapist got the content of it wrong.
And you corrected that to the Washington Post reporter, correct?
Correct.
Senator Whitehouse.
So
thank you, Chairman.
She said there were, according to the therapist's notes, there were 4 boys.
Proud of you today.
Now she says there's 2. According to the therapist's note, she said this happened in her late teens. Now she says it was when she was 15. But of course, the therapist who wrote those notes down at the time of the meeting 6 years ago got it wrong. Dr. Ford, who has had to take a long time to try to remember this and has had to infer what year this even happened based on whether or not she was driving, she got those details right because they're delicately etched into her hippocampus, evidently.
Making a sincere and thorough investigative effort is such an important consolation to the victim in that circumstance, and because it's what you're obliged to do professionally.
This is Sheldon Whitehouse. He is the senator from Rhode Island who has channeled through a slew of anonymous allegations in the last 24 hours. After one of these anonymous people was exposed, he quickly recanted that statement. But Whitehouse, the guy you're hearing now, has been the conduit for a lot of anonymous allegations that people don't want to come forward. And when they get exposed, they shut down.
I might call preliminary credibility with your initial statement. You have vivid, specific, and detailed recollections, something prosecutors look for. Your recollections are consistent with known facts.
I don't think so. I gave
made prior consistent statements, something else,
and inconsistent with her witnesses.
Look for
her lifelong.
You were willing to and did take a lie detector test. And you are willing to testify.
And we all know that you can't fool a lie detector.
Here you are, subject to professional cross-examination by a prosecutor. So you've met any condition any prosecutor could expect to go forward. And yet there has been no sincere or thorough investigation of your claims. You specifically asked for an FBI investigation, did you not?
Say something.
Did she ask it 45 days earlier from
And are you aware that when the FBI begins investigating, they might find corroborative evidence and they might find exculpatory evidence?
I don't know what exculpatory evidence is.
Not helpful to your recollection and version of events, helpful to the accused.
Understood, yes.
So it could go either way.
Yes.
And you were still not just willing, but insistent that the FBI should investigate your recollection and your claim.
Yes, I feel like I could be more helpful in that, if that was the case, in providing some of the details that maybe people are wanting to know about.
And as we know, they didn't. And I submit that never in the history of background investigations has an investigation not been pursued.
Oh, come on. Okay, cut him off. That's Sheldon Whitehouse. What a lying piece of shill he is. This is a guy who's put forth in the last 24 hours numerous anonymous investigations. When one individual's name, he backed down of it. It was in the Anita Hill Clarence Thomas case, and it's all over the internet. That Joe Biden said, shut up about FBI investigations. It doesn't matter. All they're going to do is say, he said this, she said that. They have no way to prove one or the other. And here he is pretending this is something that is unprecedented in history. What a joke. Stay with us. Alex Jones is coming up. I'll be on a little bit with Alex. Stay with us.
We've got a statement now with regard to PayPal and reports that it has ended its relationship with InfoWars.
PayPal joining a slew of tech companies that have severed ties with conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, hitting his InfoWars where it hurts by no longer allowing the site to use the payment processor.
PayPal is the latest company to sever ties with Jones after YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest.
Last month, the website called Right Wing Watch posted a report highlighting PayPal's continued business relationship with InfoWars, and the Washington Post also noted how business on the InfoWars stores was booming.
PayPal is the latest big tech company to cut ties with far-right conspiracy website InfoWars, dealing a blow to one of founder Alex Jones's revenue sources.
This is, of course, coming at a time when many, at least reports out there of possible censorship of conservative voices and other people in the media has come to light as well. So Contessa, certainly a story that we're following very closely.
It actually fuels the Trump base because they do feel like they're being silenced.
And we're also standing up to social media censorship. That's the new thing.
Apple, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter have all booted Jones off their platforms. PayPal on Thursday night informed InfoWars, which runs an online storefront that sells survival gear and herbal supplements, that it has 10 business days to find a new payment processor.
You can't pick one person and say, well, we don't like what he's been saying, he's out. We have literally thousands and thousands of complaints coming in. And you just can't do that.
Jones hit back on his website, saying the InfoWarsStore.com site had no political content, and the move emphasizes how the decision was a broader attack on the InfoWars platform.
A PayPal spokesperson says, quote, we undertook an extensive review of the InfoWars sites and found instances that promoted hate speech,
and bullying policies.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation, it's Alex Jones, coming to you live from the front lines of the InfoWar.
Well, Christine Blasey Ford is the most uncredible witness I've ever seen. I mean, she looks like a homeless crazy person and acts like one. And I predicted that there would be 3 more women after her and that they would release the final woman the morning of the hearing. And sure enough, that's happened exactly like we predicted. Oh, and she also said in her testimony that, she started thinking about talking to the press when the media came to her house and that she was looking at her dog. I mean, folks, this is so bizarre that I am staggered at this point. We've got the live coverage here, but the way they're worshiping her and kid-gloving her, and then we've got the photos and videos of her being a wild woman and all, but then instead, she sat first, had her hair all in front and the big glasses, but more and more she's coming out of the shell and being more of herself. She's been cross-examined, and just stories were tied in complete knots. And then you can see the coaching when, well, are you sure it's Kavanaugh? Well, 100%. It's him. You see, this is for all the greater good to stop the evil right wing, you see. I wanted Amy Coney Barrett. Beautiful woman, great judge, a constitutionalist, a patriot. But don't think because Trump's going to try her next if Kavanaugh fails. I think we're on a razor's edge right now. They're going to be women saying that she gang raped them with fire hoses, folks. So the Democrats aren't going to stop. That's why they're death threatening everybody, at the restaurant where Cruz ate now. I mean, I deal with these people. They are mad dog. Mad dog. They'll do anything, because their religion is dominating the American people. David Knight's going to ride shotgun with me for much of the broadcast today. We rarely see David get hot. He has been hotter to pistol today on air, doing a great job. We're going to go to the highlights, the lowlights of this. I'll be honest with you. I want to spare you this lady. She is nauseating. And I'm not going to lie. David, what do you make of this bizarreness?
Well, you know, Alex, she deserves to be heard, but she has to earn the right to be believed. And that means that the details that she has to line up with somebody else. They've repeatedly said, and you just heard Sheldon Whitehouse, and this is a guy who's put forth numerous anonymous allegations in the last 24 hours. One of them, the guy immediately said, well, I'm taking that back. As soon as people discovered his identity, he pulled back. But Sheldon Whitehouse was out there saying, this is totally unprecedented. We should have had the FBI in here. And of course, I played it yesterday. We have Joe Biden saying in 1991, the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill thing, says, shut up about the FBI. The FBI is irrelevant to this. All they're going to do is interview him, interview her, said, she said this, and he said that. And he goes, they're not going to draw any conclusions. It doesn't really matter. But we also had earlier, we had Dick Durbin accusing the Republicans of obstruction, to which Senator Grassley was very angry. And he said, I'll remind you that it was 45 days or more that Dianne Feinstein sat on this letter from Dr. Ford and didn't do anything about it. So we could have done an extensive investigation of all of this, but nothing happened.
Feinstein really chews into Grassley. So we're going to come back in 60 seconds, and we're going to get into these clips, and we're going to play Joe Biden and all the rest of it. I've just got to say, last night and this morning, there's a fourth accuser. And then, yes, they called the switchboard, and they wouldn't say their name or who they were, but they said her daughter was raped. I mean, now, oh, here, random phone call. Oh, Kavanaugh raped you. Okay, that's it, then execute him. I mean, this is becoming insane. And then, you know, other
these are not only anonymous, these are hearsay. That was a guy saying, well, I heard that somebody else said this, and he did all that. And not same thing with his mother. You know, it's anonymous as well as hearsay.
Well, this is something the so-called media does, is they do this to me now. They go, a man named Doyle says Jones was once in a movie theater and said, I don't believe any of it, and I hate America. Total lie. But they just, a guy named Doyle says, oh, wait, there's a phone call on the switchboard for you, Senator. Oh, Kavanaugh raped your daughter. Oh, but you won't come forward and tell us you are. Thank you. We'll put this in every newspaper right away. I just got a phone call randomly, and I've got, that's what since they doxed my number, I've got people calling my phones.
Well, the moment of truth is here. George Soros now is taking control of PayPal and East Bandus. They're trying to shut down our final payment processors and end InfoWars. We've now reached this point. And listen, I knew fighting the globalists, there'd be a price to pay. And I did it because I knew what horrible individuals they were. And I was willing to sacrifice myself, my name, my treasure, on the altar of having a better future like our forebears did. But I don't want to go down without a real fight, because I'm going to keep swinging until the end. But if you, the listeners, really awaken and financially support us like never before, with the payment systems we have left at InfoWarsStore.com, it is going to allow us to really hold the line like the Alamo until we either win or we're defeated. So in the words of the great founder of Texas, and that wasn't Houston, that was Colonel Travis, victory or death. We are going to win if you take action. We're going to win if you support us. But it's now all in your hands.
Waging war on corruption. It's Alex Jones coming to you live from the front lines of the InfoWar.
Well, Ford came in and played her little shrinking violet victim card, had her hair all in her face, hiding behind her glasses, but she's coming out of the shell now. The woman that everybody says they know, that's the big party animal, wild. Students give her the lowest ratings of anybody. Very vindictive, very hateful. And, I mean, this is just unbelievable to see this level of a Jezebel spirit. The spirit of Hillary Clinton, their God. The man-haters, God. Hillary Clinton was supposed to get in. And you know what? She gets to be heard. We get to say that she has the credibility of a sieve. You know, a good case holds water. Well, this lady is a colander. I mean, this lady's what you dump hot pasta into over the kitchen sink. I mean, she is as disingenuous as anything I have ever seen. If I was trying to typecast someone for a made-for-TV movie about something like this, I if I was typecasting a lying individual, I would typecast her. And her story all falls apart, and then you've got a fifth accuser that's withdrawn and said it was a hoax. A fourth accuser called the Senate switchboard last night, and they put him through to senators with Kavanaugh, and then interrogated him, and the woman said, well, I'm not going to tell you who I am or where I'm at, but my daughter got raped by many years ago, and I saw it. I mean, this is total horse manure. With Bill Cosby, you had witnesses that were at the hotels with him. You had people that saw the women laid out. He was clearly, giving them lewds. He admitted to it. He'd offer it to them. They'd take it. They'd get bombed out of their mind. I'm not saying that's a good thing. Sounds like some type of form of sexual assault to me. But with this, all 5 of the witnesses say it never even happened. They say, well, there's not even a party. He's got alibis. He's got his original calendar. None of it matters because of the chivalry. Why, she's a woman. We have to believe her. Yeah. Anybody ever been in divorce court? You ever experienced what that's like? Everybody knows, especially women. Like most of the women I know are the ones that say, this woman has no credibility. They see through her big time. But men are all, oh, well, I don't want to say that. I want to make brownie points with the, with all the women out there. Oh my gosh. And then you've got the high school annuals where it talks about she's the queen of the party, the wildest girl around. And then they run junior high photos of her in the news when she's 11 years old. And they go, oh, look at the sweet little schoolgirl that got sexually assaulted. Ladies and gentlemen, my head is spinning, and I agree with the president. A big fat con job perpetrated by very evil people. Furious Trump accuses Democrats of trying to destroy Brett Kavanaugh as nominee battles 4 sex claims, but admits he could change his mind when he hears Christine Ford testify. Well, that's going on now, and she's ongoing. We'll have all the highlights. We've got a ton of them here for you. David Knight's going to be riding shotgun here with us. But I want to play what he talked about earlier, David, from 1991, the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas hearings with Joe Biden. Because they all want this FBI investigation that takes 6 months to stall everything. And you better believe that if we see his nomination derailed, that if they bring forth Amy Coney Barrett, who's even better than Kavanaugh, and who I pushed for, and who Roger Stone pushed for, and who Patriots pushed for. She's good looking, has a great record, super smart, and very Christian. And you're gonna hear that she raped women. Just mark my words. Oh yeah, they'll have women come forward and say, she knocked my teeth out and has a black bullwhip. It'll be black bullwhip and a Catwoman outfit. You think I'm joking? I know the enemy. Catwoman outfit, bullwhips, okay? Now, just like I told you last Tuesday, they'll roll out 3 more women after her, the last one the night before or the morning of. And total precision so far. Now, let's go ahead and go to Joe Biden, the political herpes that won't go away, who's everywhere groping women, children, grabbing men's wives in front of them, grabbing their rear ends. There's all these photos and videos of men bowing up, and Senator Sessions coming over and like shooing and like swatting at the hand of Joe Biden when he's like grabbing the 3-year-old's butt. I mean, Joe Biden is a known super racist perv. So let's go to the super racist perv. Here he is.
I said from the beginning, this is about whether or not sexual harassment occurred. And lastly, Judge, with me from the beginning and at this moment until the end, the presumption is with you. Now we're going to hear more witnesses. They're going to come in and corroborate your position and hers. We'll find out whether they're telling the truth or not as best as we are capable of doing, just like you as a judge are when you look them in the eye and make a judgment. So, Judge, this is less directed at you than it is to my pontificating colleagues, Democrat and Republican alike. So, Judge.
Man, his voice is annoying.
I have not made my judgment based upon this proceeding because we have not heard all the evidence. And the last thing I'll point out, the next person that refers to an FBI report as being worth anything obviously doesn't understand anything. FBI explicitly does not, in this or any other case, reach a conclusion. Period. Period. So, Judge, there's no reason why you should know this. The reason why we cannot rely on the FBI report, you wouldn't like it if we did, because it is inconclusive. They say he said, she said, and they said. Period. So when people wave an FBI report before you,
now let's finish that up. We'll back it up 10 seconds.
They do not reach conclusions. They do not make, as my friend points out more adequate, they do not make recommendations.
That's enough. Isn't it interesting how things have changed in the last couple decades? Hard to believe this is almost 30 years ago. That, oh, you're innocent until proven guilty, and the FBI doesn't reach conclusions. And you can't just gulp the reports as if they're findings of fact, because the reports went for the side of Judge Thomas. So Biden's trying to ignore them. But what he's saying is legitimate. Fast forward 28 years or whatever, and now the FBI is a bunch of total political operatives openly in their own text messages saying we're going to set up the president-elect, we're going to get rid of him, we're going to show he's guilty, we're threat fusion GPS. Now it's admittedly was funded by George Soros, of course. That's in the news today. We always knew that. That's coming out. The Washington Post reported on it. And so now you see the Democrats saying, you cannot be confirmed, Kavanaugh. You've been accused. That's it. Now, there's an older Zero Hedge article, but let me just, since you mentioned the Soros thing, I'll pull it up for everybody right here. It's the Washington Post today. Come back from break. We'll cover that. Here it is. Dr. Cam Shot, please. Here it is. George Soros funded Fusion GPS. His spokesman confirms Washington Post. Okay, there you go. Now, David Knight, we're going to break here. You're going to ride shotgun and through the hour and into the next with me. And I know you're really fired up about this. In 30 seconds before we go to break, what is your first summation covering these disgusting hearings the last 3 hours before I got live?
Well, in spite of what Sheldon Richman, Sheldon Whitehouse, I should say, said, who's a senator from Rhode Island, there are not supported details in this. And as a matter of fact, she's very sketchy on all these details. Whenever she does give us factual details, they are contradicted by her therapist, or they're contradicted by her lifelong friend. And as you had Dick Durbin saying it was the Republicans who are obstructing this, Grassley reminded him it was the Democrats who sat on this for 45 days. They're the ones who are using this FBI thing, not to find facts, but just
That's right. We'll be back with Gabble. Bethany in PA, thank you for holding so much today.
Hey, Alex Jones, how are you?
I am Peachy King.
Just want to plug your bodies real quick, if I could. It is the best anti-inflammatory pain reliever I have ever taken. I was in a car accident 5 years ago, had severe neck pain, was taking over-the-counter medicine, had doctors prescribe things to me. Nothing worked except for this. I still have little tinges of pain, but I've never felt like this before my accident. So thank you so much for your quality product.
Well, no, thank you. Listen, turmeric, and when it's concentrated hundreds of times stronger than it normally is in the root form from India, is a known anti-inflammatory. So that's what I'm saying is turmeric, especially bodies, is 95% curcuminoid, the strongest out there. It works better for me with a pin in my leg and torn Achilles and all sorts of injuries. It works better for me and for my wife who has a hip that hurts from tennis and an elbow than Advil. I'm just saying, yes, it's amazing. What happened when you took bodies?
You know, it's natural and stuff. It took about a week and a half for me to actually start to feel the pressure in my neck start to just basically release and go away. I'm able to.
And by the way, that's key. It's not like Advil that hits in 3 hours. Exactly. It's a natural anti-inflammatory, so it takes about a week generally for it to really kick in.
Yeah, limited head movement. I couldn't really turn my head all the way to the left, my shoulder. I'm now able to move my head from side to side without having this intense pain that I had in the accident. It's been a miracle, honestly, for me.
Well, it's the power of what God gave us from Mother Nature. Bethany, great points. God bless you. Thanks for the support. We'll be back. Alex in Michigan, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Alex Jones, good to talk to you again, sir. We are Alex Jones. We're Julian Assange. Thanks for exposing the Skynet program launching in China, where the robots are taking over. Julian Assange is talking about it now. We are the resistance. I use the products. Everyone should go to InfoWarsStore.com. Get the Survival Shield X2. I've been using that like 4 years, and it's pretty awesome. I take it every day. But the Chinese Illuminati, I love how you talk about that. Sometimes the history with the Rockefellers, taking over, and then they export the fluoride, hydrofluorosilicic acid there, put it in our water to dumb us down. And great job, Alex. What can I say?
No, brother, you're doing a great job. But what's frustrating is it's all admitted. And you see the big think tanks and John P. Holdren saying put fluoride in the water to lower their IQs, and then they do it. And they're just such evil jerks. They're so cold-blooded.
I know. It's like, why can't they just, let us be and have us run our own lives? People talk about, states' rights. I think, individual rights is what it comes down to, and medical freedom and the right to choose what's in our own bodies. And I choose to have the InfoWars products in my body because I'm trying to fight these globalists.
Well, I can tell you X2, unfortunately, it's our last run of it. And the special has to end this weekend. It's 25% off. It's amazing. And again, just having good iodine in your body versus the bad halogens is night and day. Bless you, Alex. I appreciate your call. Western Europe has already banned free speech, and an iron curtain of censorship is descending down over the UK. They're set to pass rules, not a law, that if you criticize Islam or gays, you'll get 6 months in prison. We know we're only about a year or two behind what's happening in the UK. CNN and many others are calling for InfoWars to be shut down, taken off the web. Slate magazine has a professor and others saying, go beyond censorship, brainwash young people against InfoWars, psychologically inoculate them with lies so they don't actually hear what we have to say. We are the most hated news source in the world by God. It is so critical that you go to InfoWars.com/newsletter and sign up for the free newsletter so we can be in contact with you and so the censors can't bully their way in and block us being able to engage in free, open dialogue as a society. That is critical to this fight. We will prevail if you take action, and I know you will.
You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Waging war on corruption, crashing to the lies of disinformation, covering the Ford Kavanaugh hearings. Now she's gone from being horrified to having a fun time. She's really somebody now. She's going to stop Donald Trump. She's going to stop America. And look, her lawyer. That's the top swamp lawyer for Andy McCabe and George Soros. I forgot he works for him too. Oh, it's just George Soros' top lawyer and the swamp's lawyer that openly works for Mueller. It's just Mueller and Comey's and McCabe's guy. There he is. Veteran prosecutor Michael Bromwich joins Kavanaugh accusers' legal team. Look at that little ferret. He'll teach America. You're not going to stop us, America. We own you. David Knight is riding shotgun with me. Let's go to this clip from about 45 minutes ago, and we'll get to some of the other lowlights and get David's take here in a moment as we cover this electronic lynch mob. I mean, Kavanaugh's totally credible, comes off just like Clarence Thomas. He's telling the truth. Plus, her story's falling apart. This lady is a vicious Fruit Loop, in my view. And she's just part of this whole leftist slander machine, in my view. There's other men coming forward saying we were at a party and we might have been drunk and fallen on her on a bed. I don't believe any of it. We're going to get into some of the former prosecutor, expert on sex crimes that cut her apart earlier, where, oh, there was no music, but there was music. And then they turned the music up, and it's just, and it was a party, but there were 5 people, but all 5 of them say there wasn't a party, never happened. Your witnesses say it didn't happen, and it's 36 years ago. Game over, dingbat, battle axe. Just because you are a psychology professor that lords over your students that call you mean and vindictive, just because you're the chief cook and bottle washer around here, doesn't mean you get to run America in the ground. And here's the good news. No matter what happens to Kavanaugh, America is getting battle hardened to the satanic left now. You know, have they asked her about how they said she was Mrs. Party Animal in the high school annuals and describe her passing out and how much she loved to forget what happened because it let her do whatever she wanted? None of that's being brought up. None of it. I'm so angry I can barely even do this broadcast. Let's go to the clip of Senator Durbin making a good point about, you know, oh, you seem horrified. Oh, well, you know, there's men come forward. Stories are on Infowars.com. And they believe that that's where the story came from, not her. But again, you're not seeing much of this being covered as the plot thickens. So let's go to this clip. And then we will go back to David Knight here today. We'll go to that clip later. Okay.
Defense of mistaken identity directly. Dr. Ford, with what degree of certainty do you believe Brett Kavanaugh assaulted you?
100%.
100%. In the letter which you sent to Senator Feinstein, you wrote, I have not knowingly seen Kavanaugh since the assault. I did see Mark Judge once at the Potomac Village Safeway where he was extremely uncomfortable in seeing me. Would you please describe that encounter at the Safeway with Mark Judge and what led you to believe he was uncomfortable?
Yes, I was going to the Potomac Village Safeway. This is the one on the corner of Falls and River Road. And I was with my mother, and I was a teenager, so I wanted her to go in one door and me go in the other. So I chose the wrong door because the door I chose was the one where Mark Judge was.
And then she goes on to say 100% that it was Kavanaugh. And the reason I bring this up is none of this story holds together. And you got Hillary and the globalists funding the Arab Spring that killed hundreds of thousands of people per country, tens of thousands of women and children in sex slavery. Hillary famously represents pedophiles. You've got them trying to put boys in tents with girls and in girls' bathrooms at the Boy Scouts of America. They're teaching newborn babies that they are not boys or not girls. They are running around sexualizing our children. Hollywood is a cesspit. And you've got deep state swamp lawyers swimming around up front completely predatorily. And it's just ridiculous how these people are playing us like a fiddle. I'm going to get to more of these highlights in a moment, David Knight. We've got the raw satellite feed and a lot more coming up and some of her statement. Of course, we'll cover Kavanaugh gavel to gavel as that unfolds. But what is your gut level now that you've seen her testify and seen the spectacle and to see that swamp top lawyer of the Clinton apparatus perched right beside her? I mean, to me, this is as phony as a plastic banana.
Yeah, you know, Alex, she said she's 100% certain, but she doesn't have much in terms of detail. And what she does have in terms of detail isn't supported by other people. In this testimony earlier today, Alex, she talked about Leland. And of course, that's the person that she said was her lifelong friend, Leland Kaiser. Now, Leland Kaiser's lawyer, and purportedly Leland was supposed to be at this party or this gathering, whatever it was. She was supposed to have been there, along with Christine Ford and the 3 named individuals, one of them being Brett Kavanaugh, the other Mark Judge, Patrick Smith, and so forth. Now, everybody has said, except for Christine Ford, that this didn't happen. So all the other 4 people said it didn't happen, including her lifelong friend. As a matter of fact, her lawyer, the lawyer for the lifelong friend, Leland Kaiser, said, simply put, Ms. Kaiser does not know Mr. Kavanaugh. She has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present, either with or without Dr. Ford. And so every time you look at the details here, as a matter of fact, she doesn't know exactly where this took place. She remembers, as you just played that, she remembers going to a particular grocery store where Mark Judge was working, but she doesn't remember anything about this house.
We're also going to play this clip later when we come back, where she says, I remembered the assault when the media came to my house and there was a dog.
Yeah.
And you're like, so she could just be completely insane as well.
Well, one of the things she said was, she said, you know, she doesn't remember the house, she doesn't remember the street, she doesn't remember the day, the month, and she doesn't even really remember the year because she inferred it. And she said in her testimony earlier today, she said, well, I think it was that year because it was before I was driving, so I was 15. Well, okay, so it was before you were driving. How did you get to and from this house? I mean, there's so many holes in the details of this, and that's really what the issue is. Again, she deserves to be heard, but she doesn't deserve to be believed. And she has to be credible on these details, and she's not. She's contradicted on these details.
Do you agree with me that she is one of the worst witnesses I've ever seen?
Yeah, and I think that what we have seen from Avenatti in the last 24 hours is even worse. And I think it's going to energize the Republican base. They understand what this is all about. They've seen this kind of obstruction happening over the last 2 years with President Trump. They've seen the coup and so forth. And I think that this is the ultimate unraveling, I hope it is, at least, of all of this identity politics stuff. I mean,
I agree.
This is going to the nth degree.
We got a bunch of clips coming up. I'm so upset by them tearing our country apart like this and the obvious lies here and this thing being completely fake in front of everyone, and then still watching the senators fall over themselves to grovel to this leftist, Hillary-worshiping Democrat Party operative with swamp creatures to her left and right puppeteering her.
Florida elections are always competitive, and you know, this is a guy who, although he's much too liberal for Florida, I think he's got huge problems with how he's governed Tallahassee. You know, he is an articulate spokesman for those far left views, and he's a charismatic candidate. And you know, I watched those Democrat debates. None of that was my cup of tea, but I mean, he performed better than the other people there. So we've got to work hard to make sure that we continue Florida going in a good direction. Let's build off the success we've had on Governor Scott. The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state.
Monkey this up. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'll try to be articulate, Chris, and simply say that kind of vitriol, and he's apparently given up the whistle. They've gone to the bullhorn with these kinds of tactics, but they're not going to work. We tried this one time. Donald Trump, this is a page from his playbook, basically tried to divide this country and my state. And I want them to know that Florida voters are smarter than that, that we are going to reject the politics of separation.
Will Johnson is kind of the undercover agent out on the West Coast. Very powerful indeed. Unite America First is where you can find a lot of his content. But were you banned, Will, or were you just put in timeout on Facebook? We'll get into why in a second. But what is your current status? I believe it's on Facebook where they're censoring you now?
Yes, I've been banned for 30 days because I said black people are not monkeys.
So it's bad if you say monkey, even though you're not talking about black people. But then if you say black people are not monkeys, that's even worse and you get banned.
Exactly. And I was just making a point that the gentleman in Florida making a statement about monkeying around, the same statement Obama said, the same statement Chuck Schumer said, the same statement Dianne Feinstein said, but because he said it, he's a Republican, it's racist.
Do they really believe he said that to signal to white people that, hey, this is a racist, anti-black candidate? Do you think they really believe that?
No, they don't believe that. They're just using this as a tactic to attack him, to attack any Republicans, to try to demonize them as racist white people trying to run for position in any political position across the nation. I mean, seriously, they are trying to, they pick anything and everything to try to demonize someone. And when they sent me the thing in Facebook banning me, they just said, you've been banned for this video. And they said, if you do anything like this again, we're going to permanently ban you. So my question is what statement caused me to get banned? Because I said black people are not monkeys, or because I was talking about evolution where they say man came from monkeys? Which one is it? You know, they always say that black people can't be racist. So I said, okay, so can I call somebody a monkey? Monkey? Hey, so
you just called me a monkey?
You get the monkey pass. Me as a black male. Wait. Hold on. No. Me as a black male, I'm giving you the monkey pass.
I can say, can I act like a monkey too? Can I go,
Exactly.
No, shut down InfoWars. Shut it down. They tell us we evolved from monkeys, right? They try to tell us we evolved from monkeys. Just totally right, Chris. But then they say if you say you're a monkey, you have to get banned and you're a racist.
Exactly. I get so many attacks simply because I support the president and he's a white man. But he's the president of the United States. I voted for him. Most of us voted for him. We should not have to do that. And it's crazy that they're doing that to us. Monkey.
Monkey? Ooh. I'm a monkey. Monkey!
You're listening to The Alex Jones Show. The Alex Jones Show, because there is a war on for your mind.
Yeah, I've said it many times. If you go to these universities or you go to leftist areas, I don't care if they're black, white, old, young, the people look like something's wrong with them. And she looks like the quintessential just nut professor. And the ratings on her said she's horrible, vindictive, lazy. There she is. She's the big star now. 36 years later, all her witnesses say it didn't happen. Doesn't matter. She's up there smiling. She's gonna save America from America. Look at her. It's so pleased. She's pleased as pie. She's looking up at the Democratic senator, smiling like a little doggy. Did I do good? Am I doing good for the swamp creatures holding my hand? For McCabe and Comey's lawyers? And the answer is yes, you're doing a very good job. And then when the Republicans talk to her, she... And they go, we're sorry. You're right. Kavanaugh, we'll have Kavanaugh executed, okay? And then the headlines. I've got them right here. Last night, an anonymous woman called the switchboard and was put through, and she says she saw her daughter raped by him. She wouldn't say where she was or what year, but that's a fourth person. Ring, ring. Oh, random, no caller ID. And that's the new thing. I told you about this when I got doxxed 5 days ago. They put my cell phone number out. I have to get a new phone. And I have women calling up saying, oh, I saw you in D.C., but had a really good time. Let's meet again. And I'm like, I was with no women in D.C. Another call. Oh, I had fun with you, but, you know, you were a little bit rough. And I'm just like, click, block number. And then men call up and say, F you. We're going to get you. That's who these people are. So I guess they might just randomly call the Capitol switchboard and say I raped somebody. In fact, I thought about calling the Capitol switchboard myself and going, hello, my name's Alice, but I'm not going to tell you who I am or where I am. Brett Kavanaugh gang raped me with 14 elves. Yes, it was 49 years ago. And Brett Kavanaugh, he also flayed my skin and pulled my fingernails out with pliers. And then he had an electric drill and he drilled my kneecaps. Yes, ma'am, we're very sorry. Now, this is anonymous. I'm not going to tell you where or when. Just, okay, Kavanaugh's evil. Click. Anonymous accuser says Kavanaugh drilled their kneecaps with a Black & Decker drill. I'm going to play these clips and go back to David. I need to maybe leave the room for a few minutes because this is just, I can't look at her. It's like Hillary. There's the bug-eyed vampire bat look that these people have. And just knowing how she sits and perches, on top of her students. And just these universities are these anti-free speech lie machines. And I've experienced the left and their vitriolic fraud and their disinformation. So maybe I'm biased. But what I know is, top feature lawyer right there of the deep state. And I got some big Twitter news coming up. So let's go ahead and start getting to these clips here. And then David's got a lot he wants to get to, too, so we'll go to him in a moment. I'm really trying to compose myself right now. Here's President Trump saying guilty until proven innocent is very, very dangerous. Yeah, guilty until proven innocent. That is what you call tyranny. Here it is.
This is everything to do with our country. When you are guilty until proven innocent, it's just not supposed to be that way. Always I heard, you're innocent until proven guilty. I've heard this for so long, and it's such a beautiful phrase. In this case, you're guilty until proven innocent. I think that is a very, very dangerous standard for our country. With that being said, I look forward to what she has to say. I also look very forward to what Judge Kavanaugh has to say. I think it's going to be a very, very important day in the history of our country.
I want to start getting to some of her statement, and then you can compare it to her hours later. She looks like she's having the time of her life, and the whole demeanor is different. It's just mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. But going back to David, not before we start playing these clips of Christine Ford, it's all going to hinge on what Kavanaugh comes out and says today, and it's all going to hinge on Trump sticking by him and us sticking by him, because now we're sticking by due process, we're sticking by common sense, we're sticking by the facts, David, and we're sticking by statute of limitations. I mean, this is Salem witch trial type stuff. Well, how do you know she's a witch? Well, she's got a mole on her nose. This is really upsetting me at a level I've not yet been upset by. What is your view on this fiasco? I mean, this is...
Yeah, it is a witch hunt. It is a witch hunt, and it's the witches that are hunting right now. You know, going back to the Joe Biden thing, Alex, I remember those hearings. I was taking a vacation with my wife at the time, and other than the arrogance of Joe Biden that you could see in that clip when we played that, the thing that I remember about those hearings was how he hammered Clarence Thomas over the idea that Clarence Thomas believed that we as individuals had natural rights. And I thought at the time, I said, this is outrageous. Why isn't this what everybody is talking about? Because that's what the Declaration of Independence is about, the fact that we have natural rights. Because we're humans, because we were given that by God and so forth. And Joe Biden hated that about Clarence Thomas. And then when we move forward, it was only 6 years, 7 years after that, that Anita Hill and all the Democrats did not believe Juanita Broaddrick or Kathleen Willey or Paula Jones. They didn't have a right to be heard or believed. And so I saw all that hypocrisy, and that really factors into all this. And I'll say one more thing here, too, and that is this process. I don't really think this serves the Republicans well. I think that Grassley has been played by Schumer and these other people, and I think this whole process where they got a female special counsel, she's going in and questioning Ford on details is very dry, is very arcane. She's not drawing any conclusions, and she has a short period of time where she asks these questions, and then they switch over abruptly to a Democrat, and the Democrats will lay out all these conclusions and summarize everything in a very visceral and emotional way for Dr. Ford, and then she'll just go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's exactly the way that it is. This is not serving the Republicans very well in this. It's going to really hinge on Brett Kavanaugh and how he does. I don't really know how that process is going to work. I don't know who's going to be questioning him over these issues. But the way they've got this going back and forth between the female special counsel and the Democrat senators who are covering for her is really not a good idea.
And next hour, because they're going to lunch here soon, we were going to play large segments of the cross-examination. And the lady's overly nice to her. It's very, very sappy. Mm-hmm. But she does just find total contradictions everywhere. I mean, if this was...
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of contradictions. Yeah. And if she would hammer on those, she doesn't draw the conclusions on this. She'll say some things, she'll hammer, put the stuff out there, just like the therapist. The therapist was taking notes concurrent with what was going on. She had written notes going back 6 years. And in those notes, Dr. Ford was saying there were 4 boys there. Now she says there's 2. In those notes, Ford said that she was in her later teens. Now she says, well, I think because I wasn't driving at the time, I was maybe 15. But we're supposed to believe Ford and her memory, which she is very, very sketchy on all the details, but not believe what the therapist wrote down at the time. And of course, one of the things that is key about this is that according to her recollection, Dr. Ford said that she used Brett Kavanaugh's name at that therapy session. And there's nothing about his name in those notes either. And so all of this looks like this is something that is convenient for the Democrats, convenient for a political agenda, but it doesn't have anything to do with the actual.
Well, of course it is. And now, as I predicted, 3 more women, 4 total, exactly as I predicted. I'm not bragging, it's just true, because I can see the formality of this. And now he may never get confirmed because they'll probably have 20 more by next week. I mean, it's going to just get more and more outlandish. And it just gives you an idea that we have a real crop of globalist trash up there in Schumer and all these people. But that's their Achilles heel, too, because I agree with David Knight. This is really turning America off to these people. Everybody I know is seeing right through this, especially after Ford got up there and testified. She is the most disingenuous person I think I've ever seen. I get blamed for every conspiracy theory that some crazy person made up.
I said I do not agree with you that the U.S. government, someone inside the government, had knowledge of the terror attack prior to the attack.
Oh, really? All over Twitter yesterday, mainline leftist sites celebrated and said America deserved it. Reality Winner had a top secret security clearance and was helping ISIS. There are so many. The average professor at UT down the street loves 9/11 and says America deserved it. There were elements in our government allied with radical Islam that helped them carry out the attack. Just like they're covering up New Mexico.
Alex, you can argue whether or not America deserved it or not. I don't think
America deserved it. I'm saying the left is cheerleading it.
Wasn't your theory, Alex? Your theory was not only did America not deserve it, but the United States government knew about the attack prior to the attack and decided to stand down. A very different theory.
I don't want to spend all our time on 9/11. It's not that I'm running away from it. It's that the media misrepresents what I say about it. I believe Islamic terror and radical Islam is one of the #1 threats on the planet, probably #1. I know that there are criminals in our government like Brennan, who reportedly converted to Wahhabism. Obama helped launch the Arab Spring to overthrow our allies in Egypt, you name it. And I think that elements let this happen, like PNAC wrote, to let there be an attack to end up taking our liberties away. And I've got FBI was warned about flight schools. That's CBS News. FBI knew Al-Qaeda pilots were training in the U.S. ordered to stand down. ABC News. State Department lapses aided 9/11 hijackers. And they have the airlifts of evil flying tens of thousands of Al-Qaeda fighters out. Our military was ordered to do it. I don't blame our military. They will say, oh, you hate our military. No, I love our military.
The bin Laden family was whisked out of the United States by President Bush himself right after the 9/11 attack. And they went back to Saudi Arabia, correct?
That's right. When you had the World Trade Center go, people were put into planes that were friends, family, girlfriends, and they were put into planes and they were sent back for the most part to Saudi Arabia.
All I'm saying is there is a radical Islamic alliance with the left, and there are people in the government working to protect Islam. They got this imam that's connected to dozens of bombings. After 6 months, he's being released from British prison next week.
You said some things that I agree with. I believe radical Islam is the greatest threat to the United States, our freedom, maybe even the globe. I'll agree with that.
Maybe the left's bigger, though.
Well, I think the left is a different type of threat, and it's a longer term threat where, radical Islam could, kill a lot of people real fast. And the left, it's going to take a while for them to take over and take away our liberties and freedoms.
But I think we can deal with a straight-on attack like radical Islam. It's the left creeping around.
I don't like them either. I'm on board with that.
Well, this is video on screen of them saying Building 7 has already fallen. Have you seen that video? And it's right behind her.
Well, I can't hear her.
You want me to play it for you?
What? I'd like to hear her say it's already fallen. And by the way, Alex, anyone could throw a video, the picture behind it, a news person. That could be.
Well, she's saying Building 7 has fallen. They put the story out beforehand.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing. And indeed it has. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy.
We are getting information now that one of the other buildings, Building 7, in the World Trade Center complex, is on fire and has either collapsed or is collapsing.
It was almost as if it were a planned implosion. It just pancaked.
Well, pancaking almost like a precision implosion.
It's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before when a building was deliberately destroyed by world-class dynamite in Montana.
All non-essential breaking up. We will wait for that collapse.
You're listening to The Alex Jones Show. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
By the way, I'm not joking. I'm kind of having an anxiety attack on air right now. And I'm a tough guy. I can take a lot of crap. But these very people, these very Democratic operatives have been trying to ruin my life and take my kids away and lying about me. And I'm sick of it. But they're a bunch of freaking scum. That's why I'm really pissed off. These law firms and these people, these very same people. I had Mueller try to set me up a few weeks ago, and I can't even talk about it yet. So I'm going to let David Knight take over for this segment. I'm serious. I got to go walk around or something because I'm trying to not get angry. And I usually can control my anger, David, but I saw you get angry too this morning. Why did you get so angry? I mean, what is it? It's just, this is not justice. This isn't even what third world countries do. And just to know the left is really this bad. I mean, they published that I wear Nazi tennis shoes and hate black people, and then they get people to lie 100% that I never did anything to. It's like, where are the morals? What is wrong with this country? Go ahead, David.
Well, Alex, what I got upset about was the fact that I've been put in Twitter jail for a week, evidently because yesterday I had the audacity to talk about the transgender agenda and how all these Democrats who pretend that they are there to protect women and children are doing just the opposite. They're demanding, and it was just a couple of years ago, the Obama administration was threatening to penalize schools that didn't allow physically male individuals to go into dressing rooms and bathrooms and showers and so forth with girls.
Remember, Cuomo tweeted 2 years ago that if your 11-year-old daughter doesn't want to see a man come in the shower at her school, that you're a bigot and she's a bigot.
Yeah, exactly. So let's do something about that. Let's protect them. And let's talk about the statute of limitations, especially when you hear all these Democrats talking about how, well, it's so long ago, it's just really hard for me to remember all the details. I just have a visceral impression of the attack, and I remember the individual, but I don't remember any other details. Well, okay, and they keep saying, well, this happens all the time. People take a long time to come to terms with this, and that is true. And if they were concerned about protecting people, again, especially children who have an even longer amount of time that it takes them to come to detail to bring this out, stop the statute of limitations on attacks against kids, which are typically only about 3 years. We're talking about an event
and the
that was
Democrats are
35 years
fighting
ago.
in Pennsylvania and other areas to keep the statute of limitations because they want to protect the pedophile rings. You're absolutely correct. And I was going to get to the Twitter thing later, so let's do that next hour. We have fan pages that sent us this information as well. Some of these aren't even Twitters. We don't really use Twitter anymore because all the big ones they banned. Paul still has his. They said because I criticized Obama and the deep state, wait till you see the tweet coming up, that it was hateful. There it is. Let me read to you. Since David raised this, let me just go ahead and get to this now. You know what? I'm going to wait till next hour. It's too huge. It's too insane. Wait till you hear the tweet that they say is racist. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is unbelievable. Wait till you hear this. Criticizing Obama, period, is now racist. You will be banned from Twitter. But David, since we talk about this, let's start getting the clips of her. Here she is, bizarrely, just like I predicted last week when I said there'd be 3 more women. That's 4 total by the day of the hearing. So, by Thursday. And if you pull back from this, I also said every woman that was ever in the same town as Kavanaugh, college, high school, you name it, is being canvassed by databases and reporters. And she admits that. She decided to start going public when the reporters are looking through her window at her dog. And this has happened to me and everybody else that's prominent that works here. They call everyone